Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will discuss several interesting items today. We want to clarify, is Latvia attractive enough for foreign investors? How the investment climate could be improved? What should be done to make Latvia to one of the favorite investment countries in Northeastern Europe? Let's talk about what should be done to make this dream happen. So my first question is, what kind of business should Latvia prefer? Telecom, biotechnology, logistics, pharma, or maybe something else? Or is specification important to improve the investment climate of Latvia? So, please.
Yeah, so I think it's a very important question. And it goes, of course, a bit beyond simply the results of the study that has been conducted. Because what these kind of surveys do, they provide a snapshot. It's perceptions of business in the region, in the individual countries. We have the possibility, of course, to compare with past results. But what it is not able to do, of course, is to really make a more sound projection on the mid to long term, let's say, talking really about a 5 to 10 year horizon, which might be very important for investors. And the question that you are picking up is, what is the right kind of business area that we should try to attract in Latvia, maybe also in the Baltic region? To be honest, personally, I'm not a person who really believes that it is possible to absolutely put focus only on one or two industries. You can, of course, by political measures, support individual industries, but what is much more important when it comes to investment, I think, is the general and the overall climate and the possibilities that you have in the country. And if you manage to be competitive on taxes, if you manage to be competitive on attracting skilled labor, or you have skilled labor in your country, if you can provide really the basic resources that any kind of business needs to run, it will not be so much about an individual industry. Yeah? Of course, it can help if you have in your country an industry which is particularly successful and you want to grow it even stronger, and you believe you have a competitive advantage in this industry to further support it. But I think what we need to do is really look more into the overall frameworks, probably create special vehicles to attract investment. And the neighbors in Lithuania have done a very, I think, interesting way, and have created something very special in commons. That is not so much tailored to just one particular part of industry, but that is really simply trying to attract any kind.
It was a question to everyone, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Sure that the highest pilotage is that you do not fish one by one investment, but there you create such an environment in general where companies just come. Like Swedes declared, we don't need almost investment agency because you are helping one by one, you address their tailor-made needs, but if you have a perfect country, then nothing is needed. I said Sweden as well is not perfect. And Līva, you were asking, is Latvia attractive enough? And I started to smile, but not about the question, but about enough. But we will be never. There is a fairy tale about Riga. Like Riga is never ready, because if you announce that Riga is ready, then devil will pull Riga underwater or Daugava, and then devil every year comes out and asks, is Riga ready? And then answer is Riga is not ready. We are still building it, you know. And I really think that we will be never attractive enough. But I do not avoid your question with diplomatic means, like saying like any industries. I can tell you, we as LIAA, of course, have not this luxury to say high added value and just to multiply those cliches that high added value is, of course, better than low added value. But people emigrate, like 200,000 people, citizens of Latvia, and do simple and cheap jobs somewhere else, partly even in Germany. And we need them back. We need them to stop emigrating. Every year, 20,000 people keep leaving this country. This not dense populated country, which is bigger than Switzerland, Belgium, or Netherlands from territory, and had 2 million citizens, and now have less. And and then I could divide or separate between what we wish and what we should do immediately. What we should do and we are doing immediately, we accept any industries and check what we can help them. But focusing on everything, as I said to Mrs. Kliza, is focusing on nothing. Of course, you want some industries more than others. There are some industries which cause more harm than good, even though they pay taxes and they are legal. I don't speak about drugs or whatsoever. Fast credits. You have fast credits, you know, I think they have pushed so many thousand Latvians into emigration. And this was legal and restrictions were required, and you cannot say any industry. You know, we internally clearly separate that investment is not good as investment. It is a secondary effect, which is either good or bad. It can be investment. You close down sugar factories, like Danes bought our sugar factories just to get compensation from European funding and produce nothing, literally zero. No sugar is produced in Latvia. It was harming agriculture, it was doing more damage than good. It was legal, it was an industry. Gone. No sugar in Latvia. You can buy Danish sugar. I think if you keep in mind that secondary effect is more important, investment is just the mean to make things happen. To build a factory, you cannot build it free of charge, you need money, that's investment. Or services centers. In reality, we have a wrong name as agency. We are not investment agency, we are factory building agency, service centers providing agency, they're doing support. Maybe it turns out to be too long, this statement, but I think that there are some industries which are definitely to be banned, or at least restricted, or better supervised, which maybe for industry or technical tax payment are good, but for healthiness of the country, not so good. So, but now I finish with total cliche. High added value. High added value industries are better.
I would take it from a little bit more academic point of view, since that's what I'm dealing with. But doing it from the academic point of view doesn't mean that it's necessarily boring. Okay? But I would take your question in the following way and say, I don't care really what sort of industry is coming, but the industries that will come, if they want to come, those are the ones that can find the right labor. I still remember some years back, former Prime Minister said we have to be big in IT. Okay, fine with me, but we will never be big in IT if we don't have people who are educated in IT. So it has to start there first. So we cannot sort of plan that we would like to be big here or there and so on. We have to do the homework first, and that is to have the right people. And that is also from the survey earlier today. We can see this here about a little bit mismatch of skills available in the country, but are not always the skills that are needed by foreign investors. And that's the second hat I put on now as macroeconomist. This year we have to be a little bit concerned about that the labor market is quite tight in Latvia. It's getting more and more difficult to find people, because, which is a positive thing, very, very many people right now are actually already employed, and therefore it's a little bit tricky to find the next people to come forward. So for me, two kinds of problems. Very immediate one, hard to find people perhaps at first. A little bit more long-term, we need people. We simply need to educate them with the right skills, and that might not exactly be great at the moment. And then this goes on to...
Yeah, I think I could subscribe to almost anything that was said. However, I want to put it a bit in a different perspective. Now, let's start from our headquarter statement. So, German investors will create 200,000 jobs in Europe in the next year. How many of those Latvia should get? Of course, as many as possible. Now, all is a bit unrealistic, I guess. Now, what is needed is communication. Now, we have to, that's where it starts. You have to communicate. And that is also the biggest gap I assess. The Baltic states, and including Latvia, are, first of all, we are discussing now how good they are. I think the problem is a bit before that. They are just not known so much as an investment destination, because we do have German investments here, but if I compare it to what's happening in Romania or in Czech or in Slovak, that's a different story. There's thousands of people. Yeah, I was in Romania, I think 90,000 along there. And so it's about perception. And you have, being a small country, you have only 2 seconds to send a message to the investors. And the question is, what do you say in these 2 seconds? And there, I think it makes sense, your question, because you have to focus on something. If you say, I can do anything or any industry, come here. Yeah, you try to talk to everybody, but at the same time you talk to nobody. It's a different thing. And as if you say, we are the biochemical future, or we are the data-driven something, or we are... So I think there would be an advantage, at least on the communication level, to kind of focus. And that would be my assessment, and then you need to continue this communication for some period. It's not enough to do it for 1 year, but rather for 5 or for 10, because these processes take a long time. We've, you know it, Andris, from your agency, when you have investors coming for the first time into a country, and then when they make the real first construction move, easily a year, more 1.5, sometimes 2 years, sometimes even 10, yeah, in some cases. We have now, like the case of Lidl, for example, which was here, is now re-entering, and they have a great success story in Lithuania. And I'm very much looking forward to see them here in Latvia, and to have a similar success story here, with your support, of course.
Yeah, Estonia represents themselves as a country of internet solutions and startups. Lithuania will get 2 big German automotive suppliers like Continental and LIAA, who will build new factories in Kaunas. And what is advantage and story to tell about Latvia? I mean, the slogan "I am introvert" maybe was successful in the London Book Fair, but it is not enough if we talk about business development and possibilities. Or what is your opinion about it?
I think it's probably following up on what has been said before. Of course, Latvia needs to take a decision in which direction they want to move. And Flora is simply saying it's a matter of communication. Yes, I agree, communication is important, and small countries always suffer from this disadvantage that they need to get heard. And probably one step would be to really look at this not only from a Latvian perspective, but really from a Baltic perspective. I know that this is a very, very big kind of thinking, because of course there is competition between these 3 countries. But what is much more important for me, it's not just about communication. If you communicate and you, for instance, go out and say, well, we want to attract biotechnology companies, of course you have to deliver on your communication. You have to walk the talk. And if I was an investor, of course the questions that I would ask is, okay, fine, so what do you have to offer? Do you have the skilled personnel that this is in a way following up on what Morten Hansen mentioned. Do you offer any special tax regimes to really kick this off and to get it going? Because Latvia, of course, would not be the only country in the world that tries to jump on this trend of biotechnology. I was born in a city in Germany, in the central part of Germany, called Bochum, and it has a very big university. And they have started to build a so-called biotech campus. They have started to do this already many years ago. And it's a venture that is growing and which has achieved some success. But it's only possible because the city, and with the support of the federal government of North Rhine-Westphalia, has created conditions that allow to build this campus. And what, of course, was the idea is that they would put it very, very closely to the university. where they have superb education for people that are needed in this kind of business. And the thing is, if we in Latvia want to move into this direction, we need to have a very clear concept and a very clear idea how to do it, and we need to do it fast.
What to do is, of course, typical question to the government. I'm not, you know, I'm not the government. I'm just government office of sales. We are selling country, we are not policy setters, we are implementers at one end. But of course, I have been always wondering how different ministers speak different directions, and I also coming back what you just did to what Morten said, that keep educating. I think it's on one hand one simplification. If you lose every year 20,000 people, you become a donor either of labor pool or of brains, even brain drain. You cannot educate and keeping them losing and educate again and become a better donor. That cannot be the purpose of the exercise. So I think we need to allow to enter. We need to allow to enter. We need for brilliant minds to make lesser restrictions, regardless how nationalistic Latvians want to be. But I think this is important. And I also think this ecosystem is really very much interdependent. If you more educate many people and they just don't find the proper infrastructure or opportunities and they emigrate, then what do we benefit? And also one claim is again simplification, that businessmen are asked how many more people you need here. For what? For your profit or for what? Because this is not like, we made one experiment close to Latvian border with Belarus. There was Belarusian entrepreneur and they are most welcome. Of course, we promote investment from countries, also from Belarus and Russia. And they wanted to bring like 1,000 people working from Belarus. It was a very specific, strange project. I do not want to go into project details, but they wanted to create such a tax advantages that literally we lose living space. 1,000 Belarusians come, and the government, instead of having money from taxes, we add taxes just to have this investment. And it cannot be the idea of the purpose of the exercise is not to lose our living space, just to have rather new energy, but if we do not benefit as a country. The problem is not low number of people in Latvia. Canada is not dense populated. The problem is a proportional harmony between elderly people and working population, because technically speaking, Latvia is with its size, we could good live with 1 million people instead of 2. It's a stupid announcement from me now, like revolutionary. Why 1 million? Do you want to keep losing people? The problem is that if those who do not work, who receive benefits from the country, who are elderly people, pensioners, if there are too many versus young ones, and then we start this rat race that younger overcharges even higher taxes and even keep emigrating, that's basically wrong. But simplification, how many jobs we need, is I do not know how many jobs country needs for harmony and what is our niche. You cannot do a simple questionnaire, ask businessmen, how many cheap stuff from Belarus you want here? That's the wrong way of asking. I think Latvia remains also in the eyes of Germans, and from those interviews, Florian, where you are answering, I really like the way you answered. They wanted to pick up the negative part. It is bad. Florian said, no, it's good. You know, we just try to show what is becoming a bit worse and needs to improve. But they want sensation. Now, Germans came with an announcement. Latvia is bad. I don't want them to agree with this announcement. I don't want to agree with it. You know?
Well, it's okay.
Okay. Just a little follow-up also to Andris here, and then that means I avoid your question a little bit, but I come back to it and I try to be fast because you also want the microphone. I can see it on you right now. But yeah, I'm afraid I have to keep educating people. I know that some of them are leaving. They do, right? It's also the Open Europe this year that we're part of, right? I cannot say to people, you're born in a small region, you're supposed to stay there the rest of your life. But what about people coming back? Unfortunately, in economics, we only have one really good example. It's the Republic of Ireland. That was a very, very poor country 25 years ago. And what they were exporting every single year, there was people. Young people who went to the UK, went to the United States, so 40 to 50,000 a year. It's even more than here. Then they suddenly came back, and so many of them came back that it created a big real estate bubble in Ireland. But why did they come back? Wages had reached sort of decent level in Ireland so that it was attractive to come back. That was one thing. Unemployment had become very low, so it was easy to get a job, but also it seems that the kinds of jobs that people could get were actually attractive for the skills that many of these people had obtained either in Ireland or abroad. In Latvia, unemployment now is very low. We're not there, we see that, we're not there in terms of the wages yet, but we have to think about that the Estonians seem to have more people coming back than actually going away. And yes, we're behind the Estonians. We know that, we don't like to say it, like it's so boring, we've said it since independence, I guess. But it means that we're not necessarily so far away. So I'm not super concerned about it, only concerned, right? Then this about industries, now I get a little bit more negative. What is it that we're good at in Latvia? Well, I'm afraid I have to say one of them is banking. Right? It is an advantage here, and it will still be big also in the future. Then again, given recent events, it'll also be relatively smaller than it used to be. We should be still a little bit concerned about that, in which direction are we then going. Then there's also transit trade, huge, but also there it's stagnating, and the Russians are sending much, much more through their own ports. And then I allow myself, but then you get the microphone, don't worry, don't worry. I have to throw this following thing in, because that's my third hat today, perhaps. That is this year that I'm a foreigner who's been here for a very long time. I came 25 years ago, 1993. And in those days, sort of what was very much discussed, there was the grey economy, it was corruption, and it was high social taxes. Now you go fast forward 25 years, and we discuss grey economy, corruption, and high social taxes. Most likely there have been modifications here and there, but also, you know, shouldn't the debate change? Rhetorical question, obviously.
Thanks. I'll come back to your last point later, but I first want to pick up on the HR issue. HR. This is the only resource of Latvia. Latvia has no oil, yes. How many people work in the wood industry? 10,000. Latvia has no oil, has no gas, has no gold, it has only amber. The true gold of Latvia are its people. I think everybody agrees on this one. Now, lots of effort put into the university system. You already managed to establish an export good by training, for example, 700 German doctors at Riga University. It's not a bad export industry. UK does that very good. US does that very good. Can help you. You just need to make sure you get paid for it. That's the thing. I also think we should not have Latvian tax money going into educating German doctors. But you can turn it into an export good. But has really been the vocational training sector been reformed in the last 30 years in a way that it needed, because the whole world has changed, globalization and digitalization, and the answer is no. And we find it still too much school-based and not company-based. And that's why we, since 5 years, work together with the Latvian government, sponsored by the German government, and very much also with the embassy, to try to introduce, to kind of turn the vocational training system a bit around, from its head to its feet, that it's company-based. So it starts with the trainee that he has to apply for the traineeship at the company, not just hand a piece of paper with his name in the school. And why it is important? It's important because the companies need to decide how many people they need. And then they're going to train the skills they need, and so on. And my theory is that it is because of this mismatch, it was one factor, lots of people left, because they did not find the jobs they needed. And and now, fortunately, we have good tendencies, salaries are rising, productivity becomes, of course, a concern, but that's positive. And I think there, if we put in a bit more reform efforts, Latvia, that could be one of the strong selling points. And we as a chamber are ready, actually, we can even put it up to the level that we give out German certificates here. Not to let them go to find a job in Germany, but to say to investors, here you find people that are German mechatronics. And it's such an easy pitch, because we can say there's so long history, historically, and also from culture-wise, from our values. We feel very, very close. Yeah? Riga, I feel like half German city in a way. Excuse me, it's not. It doesn't mean it's not a Latvian city. But no. I really mean it as a compliment. Yeah? Because it's a joint history. It's not one. And FDI usually is a good thing, yeah, because of the added value, the know-how transfer, and so on, and corruption and shadow economy. We've been discussing that with the finance minister, especially. I think let's start with the shadow economy. I think we're still with 20-something, and the aim is 18 of the government to reduce it to 18. I would really like to see the government to be a bit more eager there. Let's say put it down below 10 or at 8, yeah, or something, and as an aim, and put in action towards this. There are activities. I don't say there's nothing, but there could be more.
Thank you, Florian, for one solution about skill shortage, how it could be solved. The current economical situation of Latvia is not bad, but is the current economical growth sustainable? I mean, it would be also a very important message to investors.
Yeah, this is essentially following up on what I said in the beginning. You know, these kind of surveys are always a snapshot at a certain moment in time. The big question is, how sustainable is it? Will investors find the necessary structures in terms of availability of skilled labor capital, all that you need to really do a business, and how competitive is it in comparison to other regions in Europe and in the world? I mean, let me try to make one comment. I mean, everything we have discussed now simply requires time. About changing an educational system, getting exactly the skills that you mentioned. Yes, we are on a good track, but the question will be, are we fast enough? And I think we of course should try to move into this direction and to start off everything we can do to move forward on these issues. But it will still be the task, of course, to get at least some of the 200,000 that want to invest now. They don't want to wait 5 or 7 years before they make their investment. And here I would support your idea, Florian, of communication, because we have very, very many good examples of investors that have come to Latvia. And what we need to do is we need to spread the word, right? And then we probably have to follow up also on what additional short-term measures do we have at our hands to further improve the situation. Changing a tax regime, it needs to go, of course, through a political discussion process, but it is something that you can do much faster than really building the kind of skills and educational system that has been mentioned. And I think we need to really go 2 ways or 2 tracks. We need the discussion and decisions very soon on what we want to do to solve the mid to long-term structural challenges, and what can we do to really stimulate short-term investment, which means this year, next year, over 3 to 5 year horizon.
Yeah, everybody went to start. Like Florian, you were staring at me saying what government should do. I can only repeat, talk to my wife, you know, about finances. You did it?
Nothing happened.
No, I disagree. I really think that Latvia and the government, I do not want to defend automatically government, it can be perceived in the wrong way. I think Latvian governments can make quick decisions. The problem is if they are not certain, or if the suggestion or vector of common discussions is not identified, because of doing reform For instance, 0% on reinvested tax capital, but increasing corporate income tax if you do not reinvest. It was perceived by many companies negative. Many companies negative. By some positive. The vector was diverse. There was no one vector. And that's a problem, because if we do not get homogeneous opinions, then this is, of course, something where this is a democracy. That's it. But what Līva was addressing, and again, you were comparing Baltics in a special way. You were comparing all other countries. You did your questionnaire, but Baltics in a special way. And we are very often, as agency, asked, are you better or even more sustainable? Sustainable for LIAA is too remote. We are sometimes thinking not in such a categories, how sustainable politicians should be. We are badly losing people, we should stop it immediately. This was about speed, what Sebastian said. And about the speed, we are asked, is Latvia better or Lithuania better or Estonia better? I ask exactly the same question when in 20 offices abroad. We are big, we are 280 people. In 20 countries we have offices, in 15 cities we have regional incubators. And those heads, they come and we interview them, and they are important, they're expensive. So office abroad in the embassy is very expensive. And of course we want the best people there. And then they almost all fall into that trap. Like, which country is better, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia? They feel obliged, they want to be hired by Ozols, they need to say Latvia is the best. It's stupid to say that Estonia is the best in interview, They even don't consider that they can ask. Because my question was more precise. I defend particular industry. Of course, it is just a kind of test purchase. I say either pharmaceutical industry or woodworking industry. There is no general answer. Because they say they compare taxes. Stupid, wrong. Investor compares salaries. He doesn't, for instance, he wants to know what he should pay for a decent colleague of him. For instance, he gets a specialist for 1,000 euro, just out of blue. Of course, it must be more, we want to live good, but let's take it 1,000 euro. Do you think he compares how much you pay taxes from this 1,000 euro? He wants to know, when he compares Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, in one country you should pay 1,200, in one you should pay 900,000, in one you should pay 900 euro. That is only what creates your cost structure like taxes, but in reality availability of motivated, not only available, but motivated, properly educated labor force, and they want to have a total cost. That's it. How do we organize good costs? By educating more people, by importing them from other countries, by allowing borders. But that is totally strange, that businessmen, instead of saying what they need, try to offer naive solutions in the sectors where they have no competences. They say, do it with the taxes like that, and the other businessman says that they were totally stupid yesterday. We are good guys, and then please vote for it. But I think, I summarize what I just said about industries. Pharmaceutical industry, we are better. I can generalize. We have not only traditions, law and farm, green text, cosmetics like Dienas, moderator, and others. We are better. Furniture or woodworking, automatical answer is, of course, we are better, we have more forest than Lithuania, significantly more forest, per size. Size is about the same. I don't know if all of you know, Lithuania seems to be much bigger, they are same size like Latvia as a territory. But in corpus furniture, in a particular corpus furniture, they are much better than us. They produce kitchens, they are just much better than that in that sector. If we generalize and say we are better, or we are better in automotive, what does it mean, automotive? We do covers for seats, for clothing, then we do rubbers for windows wipers, we do mechanical parts, we do electronics. There is no automotive industry. You are a sub-supplier for the industry. If you are in textiles, then you do the same for Air-Baltic and for automotive. Then you say, I'm in aviation business. Are you really in aviation, or you do just bloody textiles, And this is, I really think one should zoom into details. That's an answer. So,
why is there no automotive supply industry in Latvia?
I mean, there is no. The only automotive manufacturing unit in Jelgava, where AHK Thermotechnic now is located, actually, it was called RAF for Latvia, microbuses for the former Soviet Union. We never spoke positive about former Soviet Union heritage, but in engineering, in research, Latvia was the center for Soviet military, for something else, and this collapsed. The supply chain did collapse, but we became sub-suppliers for Saab, Volvo, for Audi, for Mercedes, for others. And that is destiny of small nations. We are sub-suppliers. We are very much in automotive business, but just as a sub-supplier.
So, exactly. So, you could do it. And you have the competence, and you have the heritage, and but in Germany, if you are, Latvia is not on their map at the moment in the automotive industry, and we are trying to put it there.
AHK is in automotive.
Yeah, but this is one. This is really, yeah.
Team experts, Gāze.
Yeah, of course you find examples, but that's not what I mean. And this is this debate on clusters. Yeah. So and I don't know. We try to, and in Estonia also we have some suppliers, and we try to link them now with Central Eastern Europe supply chain. Yeah, because we have all the. I see there is a potential. In the case of Hella and Continental, actually shows it. Because why could that not be done in Latvia? Also, it's similar, and the investments cases, they are out there, but yeah, you need to go, and because it's a high competition on it.
I do understand it becomes impolite answer, but again, you said you need to go for automotive. Who gives this mandate? Because now, for instance, sure, but I tell you, engineers, Morten is absolutely, I totally agree. I studied physics and mathematics, I agree we are having shortage of engineers. But when you go to this pool of universities and students, and you suggest what profession they need to pick up, there is a major discrepancy of what market in Latvia needs and what are expectations of parents. Because for tourism and some private universities, their market is how many individuals want to pay money to get certain professions. They do not do proper monitoring, what Latvia does need. They want to be famous lawyers or managers, like big part of you. They don't want to be those lousy engineers who now work as taxi drivers because you do not bring the factories to Latvia. And what LIAA did, we did out of defect and effect. If we had several hundreds of unemployed bookkeepers, for instance, they were not exporting. We invited job to them instead them to immigration. We created shared services centers. All of a sudden, very highly criticized educational system, producing unemployed guys who will either not work in their profession or not work at all because they have made the wrong choices. They made the wrong profession. But then 10,000 people now work in those professions that they do export for Cabot, for Cytec, for Statoil, for Tele2. And I really think that everybody needs to work in his niche. I'm not in a under Ministry of Education, I cannot change it. But if I see that those guys are available and they seek for a job, we organize office buildings built and we create 10,000 jobs in the last 5 years. That's big.
Yeah. I was just suggesting, or what we as a chamber, how do we try, because there we have the same job like you, or same mission profile, we try to work both ways. Of course we support German companies here, but that means also we kind of sell Latvia as a destination. We still try to be neutral and objective, and we have this mandate to be not too gloomy, with everything is perfect and so on. But I can tell you that we are successful whenever we put focus onto our events. Now on the 20th of June, for example, we said digital. That's a mega thing in Germany. We have a whole industry that is in a challenge by it, and Germany is not moving fast enough. And we go on the 20th of June to Düsseldorf and make a digital Baltic, German-Baltic summit. And exactly to promote Latvia and make it known that you are ahead of Germany. And that is so important. Yes, you are. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in certain aspects, of course. Your Wi-Fi and your connectivity and internet speed is faster than Germany. Yeah, for example, and also some of the innovations that come here from your software companies. And I mean, I heard this word data-driven nation in Latvia. I didn't hear it in Germany. Okay, you might have to explain what it means now and what you can deliver. Yeah, you still have time to think till the 20th of June. But we will provide you the platform and the people and the Minister Pinkwart, who's Minister for Digital and Economy of the largest federal state, 18 million people. You find there almost any industry, and they also underwent massive transformation, almost like the rural region. So I could speak longer, but
I'll allow myself a little bit sort of broader perspective because that's the kind of person that I am, a macroeconomist. But linked to this also, and I think linked to potential investors in Germany that perhaps should be reminded of the following. If there's one thing that Latvia has done very deliberately and done for the past 28 years, then it is to become a member of every single institution that represents democracy or free markets, westernization, if I may call it like that. Right? 1992, IMF and the World Bank, later then World Trade Organization, later NATO, European Union, Schengen, Eurozone, and the latest was the OSCE. That's a huge and seriously deep integration into anything linked to democracy, free markets, and what have you. There's only about 12 countries in the whole world that actually are members of all of those. Denmark is not, we're not in the Eurozone, Sweden is not, they're not in NATO or the Eurozone, Ireland is not, they're in the Euro, but not in NATO, etc. But certainly one other country is there, that's Germany, right?
That's what we share.
Yeah, that's what we share, right? I mean, that means Latvia has laid exactly all the foundation that it can. It's then inside that foundation that improvements still have to take place, as I see it. And then quickly, to your question also, quite frankly, I think discussion has gone a little bit astray, but that indicates, active people who are sort of burning for what they deal with. At the moment, the economy has been growing more than 7 years. I think there's many people who don't think about that, right? I still recall former Prime Minister Kalvitis and his 7 fat years, that was actually 9 years, but now we've had another 7 years of growth, and we are at you mentioned it in your presentation, at the height of the cycle at the moment. Labor is an issue, it just will be, right? So if I were German or Danish or Swedish investor needing 1,000 people, then I wouldn't come to Latvia. But if I could come with something, let's say, labor-saving technology, this is the place to come. And this is one country that should not be afraid of robotics, as they seem to be in many countries. We should be very, very happy about it. Anything that can save on labor will be fantastic.
We are running a little bit out of time of this discussion, so I have to summarize. Each country has problems, and Latvia has and will have, but it makes less sense to hide the possibilities of Latvia. On the contrary, they should be underlined internationally. The question is how could Latvia generally improve the internationality and how we can make the things better. And that is what I get from this discussion, and maybe if somebody has the last remark, this is a possibility now.
If you have an investor with 1,000 employees, he should come to Latvia. We'll make it happen because we'll educate them according to the German dual system, and we can start with the graduates from the school. That's what we do in Germany. We'll set up the system. It's not a problem. We'll find the people, yes, I think that's another similarity. The reality may be better than the perception, but that's also which we discussed in the beginning, that you focus on the problems.
If I may remark, I think our moderator has very much homework to take with, because they influence business minds in Latvia, Dienas business, and we with Līva organized together top 500 and different events, also were also reputation index, where it is awarded by Prime Minister, and I can assure you that that part of decision making or deciding about the reputation is outsourced in such a neutral and academic way that that's it. And I think that perception part is very much in the hands also of mass media as well, and of our cooperation. But I very much appreciate more what you said, because if I would say this westernization and the values fit, that we belong to the same family. Scandinavians, actually, not Germans, first introduced schools as such as a system in this Baltic region, where we are by far from what we were. We are now considered civilized in the European part of the world, very much also from the values and everything. And those, I still, for at the very end, did not get what should I do with automotive. You said, that's it. Shall I then promote it because of you? But I need to talk to my prime minister and minister. I think, but focusing needs a clear mandate. At the moment, we are focusing, really are focusing as a country on this added value, and I want not to just smash it by generalization. What does it mean? We are focusing, and I very much appreciate that the German Chamber invites us to be part of the game and talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.